Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Locke and Key, Season 3, Episode 2. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So obviously it is Brian and Duncan's wedding, and, Nina and the kids are doing everything they can to put the place together. Obviously completely unaware that Gideon ended up bringing forth two of his men, making echoes of them. Obviously making sure that obviously they cross that threshold. That's it. Unfortunately, he has the anywhere key, so he can balance around that. So it all worked out for him in the end. And he kind of explains to his men that they're like, "Who are you?" It's like, "Oh, I'm still your captain. I'm just something more." And he's talking about how the fact is they'll see what he saw all those years ago, what he saw on the other side, what he became. And once again, it's just how much of this is... Because the captain wasn't the greatest guy to begin with, so how much is just... And that was something I had wondered, based on the trailer. I was like, how much of Gideon is still Gideon, and how much is him just being this... Because the monster kind of the demon corrupts and makes you what it needs you to be, and it's I feel like sometimes I'm having a hard time telling whether or not it's 100% the demon and how much is Gideon. Once again, he wasn't the best of person, but he's also from a different time, not saying that justifies anything, but still. It seems like more so than anything, it's almost like the evil version of himself, just kind of with the demon's machinations of what it has planned. But the family also gets surprised by Tyler showing up. And I also get the answer about... Because, once again, I didn't rewatch Season 2 prior to watching it, so I didn't... They probably specified that Tyler's birthday was super, super close, and I just didn't remember. So when he left, in that 2-month period, his birthday's happened, so he has forgotten. So when he comes back and they're like... He's almost like, what? What's about the keys or whatever? Because he didn't notice Bodhi had the Hercules belt on, and he didn't know. He was like, oh, you changing fashion or whatever. And obviously for Bodhi, he wishes that Tyler had his memories back, which Kinsey does too. But the problem is, it's that's what Tyler would want, And it's they had their brother back, but they can't really talk to him about everything. They're always going to have to dance around certain subjects because they can't be oh my God, we found a new key and everything. They can't talk about that type of news with him anymore. So that's a heartbreaking thing. And I thought was really sweet that Kinsey was happy to have her brother back, because for her, it's yeah, we missed you. It's just it's been tough without you. Because at the very least, she's always had Tyler to lean on. He was the older brother, so she kind of has to play that older sibling role and has to balance so much, and she doesn't have anyone to really kind of, she has her mom and Bodhi, but it's kind of on her. She feels this need to kind of have her, Nina and Bodhi lean on her, and she doesn't have Tyler to lean on anymore. She also doesn't have Scott to lean on too. The Savinis are there, but it's even excluding Scott. At the very least, her dynamic and her relationship with Tyler is a very unique one that no one else can replicate. No one else can fill that void, and it's just a lot that she wishes she could talk to her older brother about. Have him by her side, kind of being in that ground, because yes, their relationship was rocky after their dad died, but over the course of the series they grew so much closer, and now it's without that foundation, that rock there, she kind of feels a little topsy-turvy. So, jumping ahead a little bit, Tyler's staying here because of, the break-in and everything, and Kinsey even says, right, it's a silver lining, because there's a part of her that's happy, regardless of what the situation that called for it, at least Tyler's going to be sticking around, because he was planning on only being here for the wedding, and he was going to leave the next day. So it's right, at least, and probably maybe, just maybe, if he's around long enough, maybe she can convince him to use the memory key to remember everything. Because I'd actually completely forgotten, drinking alcohol, helps, with the memory of magic. Because it wasn't until he started drinking and Kinsey was right, Mom remembered the mirror key and the mirror situation because she started drinking. Obviously, the mom has a drinking issue, so it was kind of not a good thing. But, and it's almost sad, you almost feel Tyler might be heading in that direction too, just because it's it's this thing of Kinsey wants her brother back, but she doesn't want to put him through the trauma of everything, because remembering magic, once again, it's amazing, but then you also have to remember the bad side to magic and what it cost him, and once again, the guilt of, I made the key that killed Jackie, I'm the one that used the key I ended up killing Jackie with. Like, so once again, I said it last episode, is like there's layers upon layers of guilt that he just can't shake, you know? And Kenzie's just like stuck between like, I want my brother back, but do I want to cause him so much pain and hurt to remember all of it? Gideon also walked away in this episode with none of the key. Well, no, because they have the plant key, but they don't have any of the other keys. But the problem is they have Bodhi's book now, so they know exactly what key they're looking for. Well, they were looking for the cabinet key so they could get all the other keys, but because at the end of the day, it's not even just the Omega key he needs anymore. I'm sure that would probably be like the final push he needs. Like, because I'm actually trying to remember, like, does the Omega key even exist anymore? Because I actually don't remember what happened to that. Like, they must have that locked up. Either way, like, he just needs to hold all the keys, and so to do what he needs to do, like, you know, eventually turn the entire town of Matheson into a giant Omega door in itself. But they kind of walked away with nothing this episode. But it's also like, right, you have an enemy just like Dodge who could pop up literally anywhere. Luckily, they don't have the identity key, so there ain't no getting around that for now. Yes, they have the plant key, which is, you know, last thing you need is them to have a key in their possession, but at least they don't have the identity key, so you don't have to worry about the subterfuge that Dodge was able to play off, you know? Some other elements to the episode, Bodhi stepping up as best man, which Duncan had his reservations about, but Bodhi gave a very lovely best man speech. He gave the toast, and it was like, oh man, this is actually pretty dope. And he's like, I have one word to say to you. I'm like, and then he gives him the middle finger and says, aloha. I was like, I forgot about that. I forgot. And Duncan's like, aloha to you too, buddy. I was like, I forgot Duncan told him about it. I love that coming full circle. That was a season 1 thing. I'm like, I let that slip my mind for a second. I was like, man, I forgot that I guess he still believes that. I don't know if anyone ever bothered correcting him. It's like, no, it's too funny. It's like a kid cursing. You're like, I know it's bad, but it's so funny. I don't want you to stop because it's hilarious. So I think it's that type of thing of like Bodhi thinking it means, I don't know, maybe someone has corrected him, but it is kind of an inside joke now that even if he did get corrected on it, it's like, no, I don't think he has been. I think they're just kind of like, I mean, they might not know, like generally most people might not know about it. It might just be a Duncan and Bodhi thing, because he did it to someone else. I just don't remember who. I think Nina might be aware of the Aloha thing, but I can't remember. Either way, it was just a very, very cute moment. Speaking of Bodhi, things are going to get complicated because he saw, well, Josh obviously was brought as Nina's date, which Duncan and Brian totally sign off on that. Because even back in season 1, like, Brian was kind of hoping that, both Brian and I think Duncan were kind of hoping that Nina would get back out there, and now that she has, they're happy for her. But you could tell Bodhi's not too happy about when he sees Josh and everything, because it's like, right, if a family's got together, that means Jamie wouldn't just be your friend, she'd be your sister. But it's also like, it's, you know, for him, it's like, oh, like, it's, because if I remember correctly, Kenzie kind of had some issues with that to some extent last season as well, seeing like her mom with Josh. So, you know, Bodhi's even younger, and now it's almost like, right, dad's gone, but there's other stuff kind of got his dad on his mind, so I think a lot of that's going to influence him feeling a certain way about the Josh and Nina thing. Because he wasn't aware of that being a thing. He knew they were like, oh, hanging out, but he didn't know like anything was happening between them. And, you know, eventually Nina's going to have that conversation, like, no one's going to ever replace your dad. But, you know, it's that complicated thing of like, right, she deserves to be happy and be able to find some companionship out there, you know? She can't just be alone forever. So, I mean, if she chooses to be, but, you know, it's like, it's nice having someone by your side, and, you know, she's finally ready and in a position where she is ready to, like, at least take those steps towards moving on, you know? And especially, as we know, Josh kind of went through a similar thing, you know, with Jamie's mom, so. But either way, aside from all of that, we got our introduction to the time shift key. So, once again, I talked about this during the trailer. My ultimate question is time travel rules. Everything has its own time travel rules, and things kind of work a very specific way. I'm also a big fan of Roman numerals, I should also add. I mean, I love that it's in the form of Roman numerals. I just have a special connection with Roman numerals. It's, once again, I've talked about it in the past. It's a nerdy reason why I like Roman numerals, but it is what it is. But either way, I paused the TV on the clock just to be like, okay, trying to figure out like what all the numbers meant, because I was like, I'm assuming like, it's like, because some of that can't be dates necessarily. I know. I guess the ending number is the minutes, because there is like an MM in the middle of all of it. And I'm like, okay, like fully understanding that's probably going to be a major through line throughout this season. But once again, it was understanding the time travel rules. He went back and met his ancestors, Benjamin and Miranda, and then he also discovered, which is going to be a key component this season, is that that chest that's impenetrable and indestructible. So it's like, which you're also like in the back of your mind, you're like, there's a good chance that's going to be the final element to this. My question, like, jumping ahead, having only seen this episode, but this was kind of part of my thoughts and theories, were that by the end of this, the Locks are going to most likely have to destroy the keys or get rid of them. What would be the best way to get rid of them? Full-blown Pirates of the Caribbean, Aztec gold style. Collect all the coins, throw them in the bottom of the ocean. That's probably what that chest is going to be, because like no matter who gets it, you will never be able to break it open or destroy it. It'll last forever. And if you lock the keys in there and throw it at the bottom, as you'd have to like basically potentially destroy that the key to the chest so no one could ever open it again. That might be a through line with that. Once again, if you're curious about all my thoughts and theories about and whether or not, when this actually comes out, whether or not any of my theories are right, that's there on YouTube, here on YouTube if you want to watch it. But I'm curious to see. Like, I feel like because of those two components, those are going to be major things. And I feel like that could them be introducing the end goal already. But regardless, but other than going to see... other than just going to see his ancestors, he also ended up going back in time and meeting Duncan, a younger version of his uncle. And then Duncan's like, you found the time shift key. We're kind of hoping no one would ever find that. And Bodhi's like, do you remember that conversation? He was like, it doesn't work that way. So you're like, okay. So it is a time travel key, but it's a very specific thing of you time travel to a moment. Like, this is going to be a wild reference to make, but stick with me. If you're familiar with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., there is a Inhuman. Her name is Yo-Yo. Her power is she works like a yo-yo. Basically, in the time span of a heartbeat, she can run at super speeds at up to any point. But the moment she gets to her next heartbeat, she automatically bounces back like a yo-yo to where she originally started. That's how I think the time travel works in this case. That when you time travel somewhere, you can interact with things, but the moment you pop back in time, all of that is immediately erased. Nothing, so there's no like going back in time and changing anything. Either because it's creating alternate timelines, not unless we're like going like in-game rules where it's like, cool, you go back in time and you change something, you're just creating an alternate timeline and that it will never change your timeline. Now, I don't expect Locke and Key to go that in-depth about their time travel, like, because that's a very unique time travel rule and it's complicated, so... I don't know if they'd go that hard in the paint about that. They'd probably keep it simple. Once again, things get complicated when you introduce time travel. But my assumption is like, right, it's just like, you can interact with anything, do anything, but the moment you pop back, it's not that it's creating an alternate timeline, it's just that everything resets the moment you go back to your original time. Now, you can, just based on the trailer, you can bring things back through using the time shift key. Now, whether there's going to be like timey-wimey repercussions for that or what the implications of that could be, but tied with the fact is that Duncan was like, yeah, the key doesn't work that way. Like, I don't remember that conversation because I guess for him, it's like it technically never happened. So it's not even because I guess like the key's made in a way to kind of prevent paradoxes, but you could create paradoxes if you can. I think you have to specifically use maybe a combination of keys or something to specifically bring something back through time with you, because if not, boom, you're just going to pop back in present day, just yourself. So that's my base understanding of it. Once again, this is only episode 2. There's 6 more episodes for them to kind of really explain the ins and outs of it, and I could be completely wrong, but this is based on what we've seen in the trailer and what Duncan said. Once again, he gave no explanation, but he did say that the key was dangerous. I mean, to be fair, all these keys are dangerous in their own right, but it seemed like Duncan specifically didn't want to, like, he was just kind of like, right, we'll talk about this later, so... And I think that's also, we probably will not get much Duncan this season because he's off on his honeymoon with his husband. That I think the rest of them will not tell Duncan what's going on because they want him to go off and enjoy his life and be happy. It's like, right, Duncan already had to go through the rigmarole of all this stuff related to the keys. Let's let him go off and be happy, live a normal life outside of all of this. We'll kind of deal with it ourselves, you know? So, and they had this complicated juggling act because Tyler's in the house and Tyler has no memory of all of this stuff. But, you know, and I think that's going to influence Kinsey to push for it. Nina will probably be reluctant. Bodhi will want it, and Kinsey will both want it to him to be back to the way he was before. And it might be a situation of temporarily, because can you undo it once you've done it? Because eventually Tyler is going to get his memories back. But the question is, can you undo remembering everything? Because I think, like, once you've done that, like, there's no like locking that back, or maybe you can. I don't think it's come up though. Locking someone's memories again. I don't think that's come up yet. So maybe that could be the thing of, no, you'd have to make a new key for that, or it's just once again never been used otherwise. So maybe they can unlock Tyler's memories and then lock them again just for his sake. I don't know. We'll have to ultimately wait and see how that plays out. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and good